Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie Valentine and the host of this podcast. I'm a physician, evidential psychic medium, international keynote speaker, and author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality, available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide. The inspiration for this podcast came from my own life experiences. As I have journeyed through life, it has taught me that we're part of a greater divine web of interconnectedness. I have walked the path of illness, healing, and transformation. After two near-death experiences, I became clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, and was guided to attend medical school at the age of 54. We will be meeting with many different types of doctors, healers, as well as spiritual leaders, educators, and other inspiring souls in this podcast. It is my hope that you will gain information and create a path to healing your own life, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and bridge the gap between science and soul. If you are a person who understands the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and would like to take one of my courses or work with me to create a path of healing your own life, please visit divinespiritualessence.com or drlottie.com. Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul. I'm really excited today to announce Elizabeth Boisson. Elizabeth Boisson is the president and co-founder of Helping Parents Heal. She has 4 beautiful children, 2 of whom are in spirit. Chelsea, who passed when she was 2 days old, and Morgan, who transitioned at the base camp of Mount Everest in Tibet while on a university exchange program with 13 other students when he was almost 21 years old. She also has 2 beautiful daughters, Alix, 28, pursuing a Ph.D. in public health at the Gillings School at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and Christine, 26, who recently graduated with a master's degree in art history from University College London. On October 20th, 2009, while Morgan was undergoing CPR on Mount Everest, Elizabeth asked his roommate to put his phone up to Morgan's ear. Then, while speaking to her son, she felt him hug her from the inside. It was at that moment that she realized that love lives forever. A week later, Elizabeth started Parents United in Loss, and then began holding monthly parent meetings in Arizona. 3 years later, she joined forces with Mark Ireland to create the nonprofit support group Helping Parents Heal, which currently has over 130 affiliate groups and 17,500 members throughout the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, South Africa, India, Australia, and New Zealand. Elizabeth lived for several years in New Delhi, India, with her family, while her father worked for the World Health Organization, and then spent 15 years in France while studying and then starting a family. She did her undergraduate and graduate studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the Université Paul Valéry in Montpellier, France. She also taught at both universities. In addition, Elizabeth is a certified yoga instructor and teaches yoga for healing grief. So a warm welcome to you, Elizabeth. I'm so excited to have you with me today.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. And it's so interesting to hear that bio. When I hear it, it always brings up memories. And it's amazing to think that so much has happened in so little time, it seems like.
It is a miracle, isn't it? When you get to hear about what you did, because when we go through our daily life, we sort of just feel like we're just doing what we're doing, not paying attention to all the things we have accomplished. And you have done a lot. You've had an interesting life living on several different continents. And can you start by telling us how did the transition of your daughter, Chelsea, start you on this healing journey in 1991?
Well, thank you for asking. It's true that both of my children, Chelsea and Morgan, transitioned. Um, when Chelsea transitioned, I was living in France and I had been on an IV in the hospital for 2 months. And unfortunately, at the time, Morgan was 2 years old and I had to leave him with my in-laws. And so it was very hard for me to be separated from him. Um, Chelsea, I started having those contractions anyway, even though I was on an IV, and she was born 2 months premature. And so because of that, when she was born, she only survived for 2 days. The thing that really saved me at that time was being able to be with Morgan and to spend time with him because I had missed him so much. And I know that having her transition like that allowed me to start my healing journey and the journey into understanding that this isn't it, although it didn't hit me as clearly until Morgan transitioned. But I did start living with 1 foot here and 1 foot over on the other side with Chelsea.
You've had such an interesting journey into the healing and helping other people and other parents heal. Can you tell us the story about Morgan's transition at the base camp of Mount Everest and the shared death experience that you had with him?
I would love to. I love talking about Morgan, first of all. And Morgan was very fortunate because he was able to travel a lot when he was in school. He had traveled to France the summer before and he was studying there. He had studied in China 2 years before. And then right before he was going to China this time, I was packing with him and we were stuffing everything into his suitcase and he needed to fit everything for 5 months into this one small suitcase. And he turned to me and he said, "Mom, I don't think I'm coming home from China this time." And I said to Morgan, "Well, that's ridiculous. You don't even have to go. You have all the credits that you need. Why would you even go to China if you feel that way?" And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Mom, I'll be fine." And so he did end up going. The next day he flew out. And when I hugged him, I really felt like it was the last time that I was ever going to hug him again. And I was sad that day, which is unusual because I always used to be excited when he would be leaving at the airport. It was always so much fun to see him traveling off to a new place. And then soon after, about a month later, they were on fall break and they decided to go to Tibet. There were going to be 2 professors who were going to be going with him, and the 13 students who also went with. And they flew to Lhasa at 11,000 feet. And the next morning, immediately, they got in a bus to go up the mountain to Mount Everest. And it was too quickly because normally they should have more time to go up in altitude. You should usually have about a day per 2,000 feet, I think it is. But they were all going up the mountain. The 2 professors who were supposed to attend or go with them ended up not going. And so they had a tour guide on the bus who was pushing them up the mountain. All of the kids were very sick on the bus. They were throwing up. Some of them were urinating on themselves in the bus, which is a very clear sign of altitude sickness. But nobody recognized it because they were also disoriented. So they finally got up to the base camp because the tour guide was pushing them up and wanting to get up there before nightfall. And Morgan had dinner and then had a terrible migraine and decided to go to bed early. And when he was in the yurt, which is like a big tent, he got up a couple times during the night and he was wandering around very disoriented and calling the kids by the wrong names. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, when they were supposed to wake up and start back down the mountain, Morgan couldn't wake up. Actually, they kept trying to wake him up. They couldn't wake him up, and he was foaming at the mouth. And so at that point, one of the other kids who was on the program called his mother and said, "What should we do?" And she said, "Get him down the mountain as quickly as possible." So my son, being 280 pounds, 6'6", he was a really big guy. All 13 of these kids worked to get him onto the bus. And in the meantime, the director of the program called me and said that Morgan was having difficulty breathing and they were taking him down the mountain. And he gave me his roommate's cell phone number. And so the bus, after a very short time, actually stopped because Morgan had stopped breathing. And they took him off the bus and were doing CPR on him at the time. That's when I was able to get through to Colin, his roommate, and Colin very, very kindly told me, "Miss Boisson, I don't think Morgan's going to make it. We're doing CPR on him, but he's not breathing right now." And I immediately told him, "Please put the phone up to Morgan's ear." And when he did, I told Morgan that we loved him, that we were proud of him, and not to be afraid. And right then, I felt him hug me from the inside. And I was here in Cave Creek, Arizona, and he was at the base camp of Mount Everest. And so obviously there was an enormous distance between us, but that hug made me realize that love lives forever. And if I can go a little further in that story, the amazing thing about it is that I've been told by mediums since that Chelsea was the first person that he met when he got to the other side, and that she took his hand and led him to me. So having Chelsea transition so early on in life seemed like it was so senseless at the time, and I didn't understand why this had happened. But the fact that she was able to bring Morgan to me immediately, now everything makes sense, because of this, I had this understanding of everything. I felt like, oh my gosh, I love everyone. I love everything. And my husband was sitting next to me in the office, and he was looking at me and he thought everything was fine because I had this incredible, I probably was smiling just from that hug. And I said, "No, I don't think that he made it," to my husband. And my husband was devastated. Obviously, he didn't get that same shared death experience that I experienced. But I know now that there was a reason for that, because I was meant to be able to start a support group for parents immediately following this happening.
Wow, what a beautiful story. And just the way you reacted in a situation like that, it's just, I have no words to even describe what that must have been like. And just be so calm and realize all that love. It's just, it's so beautiful. And so then right away, you started these support groups for other parents. And it must have been such a strong feeling inside of you that just drove you in this direction.
Well, I would love to tell you why. I mean, it's when it happened, I thought that this kind of thing was happening to every single parent when their children transition. But I didn't know any parents who had children who had transitioned. So I set out to meet other parents. And in doing so, I attended other what they call grief support groups. We don't like to call ourselves bereaved parents. We call ourselves shining light parents because we feel that our kids shine through us. But in these other bereavement support groups, I would try to talk about the amazing signs that Morgan was sending me, because immediately I was getting these things that were just incredible. And I was told that we weren't allowed to speak about those things in those groups. And so I thought, oh my gosh, how are parents going to know what's happening? That their kids are trying to talk to them. They're trying to tell them that they're okay and that they love them and that they want them to be happy. And so the only way I could think of to do this was to start one on my own. And it was really wonderful because I know that the kids helped me find the parents that were necessary to start the group in the first place. And it grew from there.
Wow. And you talk about getting signs from Morgan on the other side. Do you have any story that you would like to share about a sign?
So many signs. It's really interesting. Obviously, immediately after this, I had been practicing yoga at a studio very close to where I lived. And I was close friends with the owner of the studio, who doesn't necessarily believe in any of this. And I preface this because she was very skeptical when this happened. I wasn't even in the studio when this happened, but about a week after Morgan transitioned, she decided to interview a psychic medium for the space that was free in her studio. And when the psychic medium, who turned out to be Suzanne Wilson, came to the studio, Suzanne said to her, well, how are you going to test me? And let's see, no, what happened, I'm sorry, was that Angie said, how am I going to test you? Because she didn't know anything about it. And Suzanne said, well, do you have any kind of picture that I could read? And it turns out that I had just sent my holiday card to Angie's studio. So I had a picture there of all three children, and there was no text on the front of the picture. So Angie gave that to her. And Suzanne immediately started talking about the fact that she saw Morgan on a mountain shouting through a megaphone that he was okay. And it was so significant because Morgan was a U of A cheerleader. And so for him to be saying that he was okay through a megaphone that was actually a part of his service, that was pretty amazing. But also, she saw him lying on a mountain with a black box up to his ear. And he was saying into the black box, I love you back, that he heard everything and I love you back. And that's exactly the way that he used to respond to me when I would say I loved him. And she also saw a band of three brothers, and Morgan was one of three roommates. The other kids were really important to him, but those three were the most important. The other two, they stayed in Lhasa with him until my husband was able to get over there. It took a while with his Tibetan visa and everything. And they're still very, very close to us. But the most significant thing that happened, and this was just amazing because I wasn't even there. I was actually at my house, had no idea this was happening. But Suzanne said that there was a rock that was going to be brought back from the place that Morgan transitioned in Tibet. And she drew the rock on a piece of paper and it was split in the middle. And I looked at it and I thought, well, this is really wonderful, but I don't have any rock. Colin arrived a month later and he brought a bouquet of tulips. And he said that Morgan said that he was supposed to pick those out. And they're some of my favorite flowers. And he had a rock with him that was split in the middle, exactly the same as that rock that Suzanne had drawn. So that was something that was pretty amazing to start with, just having that happen. And I wasn't even there for it. So I think that obviously she wasn't able to gauge my energy or do anything. I wasn't there. So it was amazing.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. And it's just such wonderful proof that, the spirit world exists and they're right there with us.
Can I tell you another story?
Yeah.
Really soon after that? Well, Suzanne was very hard to schedule with because her husband at the time was having health issues. And so the only thing in the world that I wanted to do at that time, as soon as I found out about this, was to have a reading with Suzanne. even though I'd never even thought about having a reading with a medium before. And she's kind of pushed it off until a month and a half later. Well, before the meeting ever happened, she was at a psychic fair in Phoenix, and there were several people that are now a big part of Helping Parents Heal who were there. One was Jamie Clark. One was Mark Ireland, who is a co-founder of Helping Parents Heal. Mark's son, Brandon, passed on the McDowell Mountain Range, which is in Scottsdale. He had an asthma attack. And so he wrote a book called Soul Shift, Finding Where the Dead Go. This is Mark's book. And when he found out that Suzanne was going to come and do a reading for me, he signed the front of it. And he said, from one dad who's, one mountain dad to a mountain mom. So anyway, I read that book from cover to cover in a day or so. And then I called him right away, because this was the first parent I had met who, obviously, from the way that he wrote the book, was communicating with his son, understood that this isn't it, was happy. And so because of that, I called him up and we had coffee together, and he was our first speaker at our first in-person meeting. And he spoke about Soul Shift, Finding Where the Dead Go. And then the rest is history now. Obviously, he's a big part of Helping Parents Heal.
Wow. And it's just so beautiful how you have brought all these thousands of parents together to find, support all over the world. It's just amazing. It's such a beautiful thing that you have done.
Well, thank you. It's not me, it's the kids. I mean, I always say that. It has nothing to do with me. Doesn't have anything to do with Mark. And Suzanne would say the same thing. Yeah. I think that really the reason that Helping Parents Heal has grown over the years is because kids are bringing their parents to join us, because they're all friends where they are.
Yep.
And now we're all friends as well. And I'm very grateful that they do that, because it's really easy for us.
Right? No, I know exactly what you're saying, because the spirit world guides us to do things, and it makes you wonder how much we are really in charge of our life. Because they are. I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm not in charge of my life either. So
oh, and it's funny, because all of the volunteers for Helping Parents Heal, I have some very, very close friends who are volunteers, and we all feel like we're marionettes. We just kind of follow whatever our kids want us to do. And I know that you've already had that experience as well.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm running this podcast because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Just, distributing information to help people heal physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And this is just part of my path. And here you are, and we're both guided from the spirit world. So it's just such a beautiful thing that's happening. So this group, Helping Parents Heal, how is that different from other bereavement groups?
That's a very good question. As I said, one of the things that was hard for me with other bereavement groups in the very beginning was that no one would allow us to talk about the experiences that we were having in terms of the afterlife. We're completely non-dogmatic, so anybody can join. They don't have to believe in the signs that their kids are sending. But one of the main and most important things about Helping Parents Heal is that we truly believe that it's possible to heal from the passing of a child. And we believe that our kids want us to heal. We believe that our kids are happy, healthy, and home, and we are still in school. So instead of, I think that a lot of people say that Earth is one of the hardest places to be in the universe. So instead of thinking of our kids as being in a sad place, which they aren't, oh my gosh, they're having a fabulous time. I always think of the kids as almost like dads who are looking at their babies who have just been born in a maternity ward, and they're pointing through the glass and saying, "That's my son, that's my daughter." Instead, they're saying, "That's my mom, that's my dad," to all of their friends. And so for me, I want to make Morgan and Chelsea proud. I want them to think, "Oh my gosh, she did that today. That was just such a wonderful thing to reach out to that parent," for instance. And I just have this enormous gratitude every day when I wake up. And so that's what I want to transmit, and what we all work to transmit who work with Helping Parents Heal, to the parents who join Helping Parents Heal. And that's what the difference is. There is a way to heal, and we are proof that you can heal.
Oh, this is wonderful. And what resources are offered through Helping Parents Heal?
Well, everything is free of charge. And we have a group of 29 caring listeners led by Lynn Holohan and Dr. Mark Pitstick. The caring listeners are parents just like us. They're not professionals. They're here to listen, and they've gone down the healing path a little bit further than all of the newer members, and they reach a hand back to be able to pull others forward. There are 7 languages that are spoken by the caring listeners as well. So if English is not someone's native language, they can also reach out. Obviously, Hindi, we have Romanian, we have French, Spanish, Chinese, Italian. I'm trying to think of what all of them are. But it is really important to be able to have as many languages as possible so that people feel comfortable speaking in their native language. We don't have Swedish. I would love to have Swedish. but anyway, caring listeners are one of the resources that is really important for members who are new on the journey, to be able to have somebody night or day, and the phone numbers are published, the bios are published, as well as their emails. We also have a YouTube channel. So on the YouTube channel on our website, which is www.helpingparentsheal.org, we have different YouTubes from experts in the grief community, experts in the afterlife community. We have gallery readings from renowned mediums who come. We have shining light parents who speak. So parents who have gone a little bit further down the healing path, and they tell about their own healing journey. But since the pandemic happened and we were supposed to have our second conference, all of our speakers who are going to be speaking at the conference, including Dr. Raymond Moody and Dr. Eben Alexander and Bill Guggenheim and David Kessler and a whole bunch of other people, kindly agreed to do these YouTube videos, which have been very, very healing to parents. And we do them in the evenings. So that's another resource. We have a list of recommended providers, and actually Mark Ireland certifies the providers if they're mediums, but we also have therapists and other healing. We have people who do Reiki. We have all different kinds of healing techniques for parents to be able to help them. We have recommended reading as well. And all of the books that have been put onto those recommended reading lists, either by providers or by parents, have been read by at least 2 of the board members of Helping Parents Heal, to make sure that it's uplifting, happy, healthy. It has to be uplifting. It's very, very important to us to have, and it has to never be scary, because there's nothing about the afterlife that's scary. So all of the books are wonderful. We also have a recommended movie page on the website, and we have a newsletter that comes out once a month that actually I edit. And that's been going on since 2012. So there's lots and lots of back issues on there. We have validation stories in the newsletters from parents, which is really helpful to other parents. We have a tributes page, so parents can go on there and put the birthday, angel date of their children, as well as a paragraph about their child and a beautiful picture. And we celebrate those every day. We have at least about 40 kids that we recognize on Helping Parents Heal. And that's something that's very important to me. The kids push me out of bed every morning to be able to get their tributes done, which is fun. And then we're on Twitter and on Instagram and on YouTube as well, and on Facebook. So those are some of the resources.
That's a lot of resources. And is it the title Helping Parents Heal on Instagram, Facebook?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And helpingparentsheal.org. And Twitter, it's Heal Parents. That's the only one that's different.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
It
wouldn't take the longer name.
Right.
We had to switch to the shorter name. Sorry, you're right. Exactly.
So if there are people out there in different European countries where they all speak different languages, or other parts of the world that would like to be part of this and can be a translator for you, how can they contact you and say, hey, I speak, Dutch, or I speak Norwegian, or I speak Swedish or Finnish or whatever? How can they be part of that?
Well, first of all, we need affiliate leaders in those different areas. And so we're right now working on getting an affiliate in Finland. And so if someone's interested in leading a group there, it can either be by Zoom or it can be in person, but it's better to do it by Zoom because a lot of times if someone speaks Finnish, it's nice to be able to have lots of people from around the world attending a meeting that's specifically in that language. We have affiliate groups for just Spanish speaking presenters. We have them for Romanian speaking presenters as well. So that's one thing that we would love to have is more affiliate leaders. For the caring listeners, that's also something that would be wonderful. And we don't necessarily have to have an affiliate that represents the caring listener, but either of them is a wonderful tool to have. My email is elizabeth@helpingparentsheal.org. So the easiest way to get in touch with me would be to just email me that way. And one of the things that I've learned along this journey is that helping others helps me more than anyone else. And I think that most parents realize that themselves, that when you're able to reach a hand back and help someone forward, it just gives you such a great feeling. So being able to offer that possibility to parents is really wonderful.
And you have a conference coming up and it's scheduled for August 2022. So not next month, but a year from now, August 18th through the 21st, and it's going to be here in the Phoenix area. Can you tell us about that?
I would love to. And I want to just say that it's being organized by Irene Vouvalidis, who is our vice president, and she's the conference director. And she's also our Hilton Head Bluffton affiliate leader. And she also leads a chat every Tuesday that kind of came about during the pandemic because people needed more Zoom meetings, but she also is on all of the Zoom meetings with me. So she and I are organizing this conference together, and we will have probably about 40 speakers at the conference, experts in the afterlife and grief communities, the way that we did for our first conference. The really great thing about this conference, because the one that was scheduled in Charleston, which would have been our second conference, was sold out. And the hotel held 600 people. The hotel that we're going to be at in the Phoenix area actually holds 1,900, which is so wonderful because we'll be able to not say no to when they want to attend. And we do have some scholarships available as well. We've had some really kind donors who are helping with that. So if people are not able to because of the fact that they don't think they can afford it, it's something that we're hoping everyone will be able to attend.
Wow, that's going to be an amazing conference. So many people getting together to help each other heal, helping parents heal. It's just beautiful. I want to thank you so much for taking the time and being a guest on the podcast today. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was a pleasure to speak to you, and I just appreciate it so much. And I'm thrilled that you're here in the Valley, the same as me. So hopefully we'll be able to see each other soon in person.
Right now that things are slowly opening up and we're returning to normal, just pray for a continued success moving forward, so that we can all get back together in person. And definitely, by 2022, I'm so glad to see that you're planning so far ahead, because by then I'll be amazed if you don't have all of this COVID under control by then, and you can start making plans now for that traveling that's going to take place a year away. So just beautiful. So thank you again for being a guest today.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it, and it's been such a pleasure to meet you and to spend time with you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Dr. Lottie Science with Soul. To stay up to date on future episodes and to help us reach a larger audience, remember to subscribe, review, and share this podcast. If you're a person who understands the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and would like to take one of my courses or work with me to create a path of healing your own life, please visit divinespiritualessence.com or drlottie.com. My book, Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality, is available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide.